For today's best of 2024 video, we're going to my favorite strategy games for all the clicking, pointing, tactical, and strategery that go with them. In order to save this from turning into even a longer series, I'm going to be lumping several different genre types into strategy, including tower defense, as this year I played quite a lot of strategy games, which is kind of nice. We also have a lot of RPGs coming up in a later episode. For my first pick, we are going to go with the very twisty take of Timemelters. Timemelters is a tower defense style game that, kind of like Time Twisted from the other day, deals with time manipulation, where you are technically the tower, or kind of a mobile tower, and it's up to you and your past selves to defend waves and lanes from evil enemies trying to get you. What you do during kind of like one rewind will carry forward to what happens presently. So it's up to you, and you in order to save the day. And yes, it is tricky and as complicated as that sounds. The game features multiple story maps, challenge modes. It can be a little bit tricky to learn at the start. I believe it also has multiplayer or co-op along those lines. And it's a very original take on the tower defense formula that kind of even leans into like being almost a quasi-puzzle game at times as well. But very fantastic title if you're looking for a unique and challenging and a bit time-twisty experience along the way. Our next pick is another in a very unique take on strategy and city building design. So this is, I'm going to make sure I get the title right, Bulwark Evolution Falconeer Chronicles. So we play this just as Bulwark, I think Falconeer, back earlier this year, but it has been updated quite a bit. And what we have here is a very original take on kind of city building meets strategy, in that you set up a bunch of nodes, and how you place them and their distance and whatever determines what it is you're actually building. And your cities/hubs will grow dynamically based on it. You can also create kind of airship armies that can go out and conquer new lands, get new resources, etc., etc. This one can be a little bit tricky to learn, much like our last entry. And a lot of it has been expanded upon since we last played, so even my thoughts on it may not be completely accurate, considering some of the more updated elements to it. But what you'll get with this one is a very original take on both a strategy game and a city builder. It's probably not going to appeal to everyone, but this is one of those concepts that if it does appeal to you, you're going to find a very enjoyable experience that you will not see anywhere else. For our next entry, we're going for a game that captures some of the oldie but goodie styles of strategy design with Songs of Conquest. This is one that is heavily inspired by the design of Age of Wonders, where you'll manage your army and your kingdom from a kind of turn-based field, and then go into a different kind of combat when it's time for armies to mix it up. In this case, it goes to more of like a tactical RPG style, where you'll maneuver your different units around, or just use your spells to smite your enemies. The game does a good job of presenting itself both as a kind of warm welcome to old fans looking for that new kind of strategy RPG style, and for newcomers who may have never played those games. I love the use of the kind of like billboarding style for the different units and the backgrounds and environments. The game features a level editor, there's multiple campaigns, multiple difficulties, all that great stuff. While there's nothing in here that I would say is unique for this particular style of strategy design, what we have here is a very well executed take, and again, one that's perfect for new and returning fans alike. Our next entry, it goes into the game that is good despite how horrible I am at it, and that goes to Men of War 2. The most elaborate kind of World War II-esque RTS that is currently out there. This is a game where you will either be all in or all out very fast, featuring an incredibly intricate way of controlling units, managing resources. It can be played in co-op, which I would highly advise if you're not good at this game at all. And what we have here is kind of the complete opposite of a Company of Heroes style RTS that went from more of an approachable standpoint, very kind of easy to understand. Here, you're going to have to get really good at understanding sightlines, movement, ranges, barricades, cover, and more. Again, definitely not for everyone. But this is going to be one of those games either that you will utterly despise and never play again, or will easily be one of your top games of 2024. And I don't think there's too much room in the between for that. We're going to begin stretching the terms of kind of like strategy, tower defense, and all that great stuff for our remaining entries. And my next one is Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess. What we have here is a Japanese mythology-infused take on both tower defense as well as basic combat in a interesting mix of designs. You're moving around the field in third person, real time, hacking, slashing, jumping, blocking, and all that. But you also need to manage your various followers, all different classes, different roles, and try to complete tasks on the map during the daytime to then defend from waves of enemies during the nighttime. This is one of those games that, again, combines a lot of different elements of strategy and RPG, and even in some sense an action game as well. It is certainly, once again, not going to be for everyone, but I really love this one. From the very bright colors and beautiful aesthetics, to the kind of thought process and decision making as to which classes you want to upgrade, how you want to position yourself during each day and night cycle. It can be a little bit clunky in spaces, especially the kind of clean up these settlements after you're done with them side system that happens afterwards. And it does get a little bit more on the repetitive side when there's even a boss rush to go with things. But a very fantastic take, and I really hope that this is not just going to be a one-off. And I would love to see a sequel or someone do something similar in this specific style of a strategy, hack and action tower defense game. Like our last one, I would definitely recommend you play it because you're either going to really love it or you may bounce off it, but it's still an unusual and original experience nonetheless. The defend your settlement against waves of enemies style of strategy has grown even more popular over recent years thanks to the explosion success of They Are Billions. And while the next game may not involve you fighting billions of enemies, it's still a very satisfying take on this style with ThroneFall. ThroneFall was released at the kind of near the end of 2024 in October. And you have this kind of real-time tower defense style, where you must set up defenses, maneuver your troops around the field, and deal with a variety of enemies, waves, and even more challenges along the way. We've played this throughout early access, and with it at 1.0, the game has definitely improved, especially in terms of its progression and the additional means of kind of customizing your play, making it either easier, harder, or somewhere in between. Another really solid take, and another one that I think is also fantastic for like a new player. The game does a great job of onboarding and kind of introducing players to this particular style, but still having quite a lot of bite to it, especially if you want to add up all the unusual and challenging difficulty modifiers to go with things. So, if you are looking for some more defending against the enemies and for a very stylized world to do it in, then definitely give ThroneFall a play. My next pick is one of the funniest games I had to play this year while still being very tactically challenging with Tactical Breach Wizards. I love the kind of aesthetic and humor of this game. I know that the kind of dry wit may be a little bit too much at times for some people, but it was the just right amount of wit for me. We take place in a world where wizards and magic have become combined with the private military complex. So you have wizards using their staffs to do overwatch shots and AK broomsticks. And I just love the lore and the world that was defined for this game. As for our gameplay, it kind of is in that middle ground between being a tactical strategy game and a puzzle design, as each one of your characters have very explicit roles and abilities that you can do, and you're free to kind of mix and match which ones you take onto a mission, as well as which ones or how you upgrade their different skills. It's one of those games where every map is going to be you thinking, I don't know how the heck they want me to do it, this is impossible, I don't know what any of this is. And then you figure it out, and then you feel incredibly clever for at least a few seconds before you move on to the next map, and things repeat again. This one I highly recommend if you're a fan of tactical strategy design, especially tactical strategy that's about using very unusual powers and maneuvers that you normally don't get a chance to play with in some of the other examples. One of my favorites for sure, and I hope we see more from this universe in the future. For our last entry in strategy for this year, this is going to be more roguelike tactical strategy. Again, it's going to be one of those weird mixes of designs with rogue waters. I enjoy this one because I really like the kind of interlying or the intersection of the mechanics. That you fight other ships in order to weaken the enemy or remove essential buffs, which will then make the tactical combat easier for you. There is, again, like the persistent elements of upgrading your different crew members, getting new parts, and it kind of falls in that weird place between different genres. I don't think this game's quite going to be for everyone. It is a title where it's hard until it's not. Once you get enough upgrades and enough of the persistence kind of on your side, you can start blowing up everything that gets in your way or pirating your way through the title. I still love this concept, and I feel like there's more to explore in terms of this connectivity between these two systems. Like some of the other games mentioned this year, this is one that you will either really, really get into, or it's just not going to work for you no matter what. But I really enjoy this as a concept. In a way, like, the kind of, like, mix here reminds me of how much I enjoy Victor Vran from a few years ago. That it's a game where the mechanics and design systems feel like they're all kind of, like, thrown together, yet it comes out being not exactly for everyone, but if it works for you, it's going to click very well. And I do hope that developers will continue to either support this, or we see some kind of either sequel or spiritual successor, or something again to expand on these mechanics and iterate. But another fantastic game, and this year I'm looking at my list of strategy games, even the ones I didn't mention, it's just been a very varied year for the genre, which is really great to hear all around. And with that, another part comes to a close. At this point, I think I'm about halfway done with the list. We still have a few major genre names left to get to, and then we have Best in Show. Let me know what some of your favorite strategy, RPG, tactical, tower, city, building defense games that you enjoyed from 2024. Thanks for watching, and see everyone in the next part. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.